Hello, this is the lesson for Tuesday, January 19th. We are continuing working with measuring and we're comparing different units of measure. So before we start on the pages that are in your packet for today, which are going to be pages 192 and page 193, let's take a look and remind ourselves of the different units. Okay, remember, we are measuring, which means we are seeing how long something is, and that is called length. When we measure something, we use units to describe how long it is. Okay, so we might use inches, we might use centimeters, we might use feet, and we might use yards, although we probably won't talk about this one a whole lot because you'll get more into this one in third grade. Okay, so let's take a look at our ruler very quickly. Remember, your ruler has inches on one side. That's a side that goes all the way to 12. And then if I flip it over, the centimeter side goes all the way to 30, just like we remember talking about in class. And we talked a little bit about last week the fact that we can decide, well, let me start over that sentence. That sentence wasn't really making much sense. We know that there are 12 inches on my ruler, and one whole ruler equals 1 foot. Okay, so in 1 foot, there are 12 inches. And remember, I showed you guys last week, if I have one of those really, really big long yardsticks, I can stack 3 rulers right next to each other, like end to end. And 3 of these rulers equals 1 yardstick. So that means 3 feet equals 1 yard. Okay? So do you remember about how wide did we compare 1 inch to? Remember, we said that there is a coin that's about the size of how long an inch is. Do you remember what it is? If you said quarter, you are correct. If I switch it over to my centimeter side, do you remember what we said is about the length of a centimeter? Remember, we said it's about, mine's a little bit bigger than a centimeter, but it's about the length of how wide your finger is. Okay, so you guys' fingers is probably a little bit closer to a centimeter wide than mine is because I'm a grown-up and mine are a little bit bigger than yours. So that's just a quick review of the different units we use when measuring something. On page 192, which is where we're going to be today, today's lesson is going to be a little bit shorter than it was yesterday. Not a whole lot. And also I do want to make note that number 4 and number 5 on this page, I did not put a ruler in your e-learning packet. Okay, so if you don't have a ruler or something to measure with at home, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not super concerned because we did a lot of practice with measuring last week. We will do this one together. I will show you with my ruler. Okay, so don't worry about that. So let's take a look up here at the top. So we're going to use this picture for problems 2 and problem number 3. So if we take a look, there is a picture of a paper clip. Remember yesterday, we said there are kind of like 3 rules for when you're measuring something. So rule number 1 is it has to line up with the 0. Perfect. Check. Then we take a look at the other end and we see what number it lines up with. Well, it lines up with the 2. Then rule number 3, very last thing I do is I check and I see what unit am I using. So I can see right here that I am using inches. If I look down at number 2, it says measure the length of the paperclip in inches. So how many inches did we just figure out the paperclip was? You said 2, you are correct. Now, really quickly, this is my computer screen. Okay, so obviously I can't draw or write on it because that would be a problem, right? But what I want you to do, or what you might find helpful, is if you draw a line right here and right here so you can see what this lines up with, because after we find how long it is in inches, we are going to take a look and see how long it is in centimeters. Now, this next one is going to be really important that you pay attention, because it can be a tiny bit tricky because we're going to have to do a little bit of estimation. It might not be exact, which we'll talk more about estimation next week when we go back to school. But first things first, we're going to see how long it is in centimeters, and that's this ruler right underneath the inches ruler. So it still lines up with my 0. But when I look over here, if I were going to draw a line, oops, my mouse didn't really go straight. It lines up really, really well with a 2. But if I come down right here, see how my mouse doesn't quite line up with the 5, like not exactly on the dot, but that's okay because we are measuring to the nearest or the closest centimeter. Do you think this mark right here is closer to the 5 or closer to the 6? This mark right here. I hope you said 5 because it's a lot closer to the 5 than it is the 6. So we are going to say that that is 5 centimeters long. Okay, 5 centimeters. Now it's not exact, right? It's a little teeny bit longer than 5 centimeters, but that's okay because we are measuring to the closest. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this is not very scientific. I probably should have found a book and brought it home with me so I could see exactly how long this is and use a ruler. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold my fingers right here. And if I scroll down just a teensy weensy bit, try not to scroll down too much. There we go, just a little bit. The first thing number 4 says is to measure the length of the leaf in centimeters. Now, if you do have a ruler at home already, maybe mom or dad has a measuring tape. If you ask permission, maybe they will let you use that. Perhaps you have an older sibling who has a ruler that they will let you borrow. Whatever you do, make sure you ask permission first. And if you don't have one, don't worry about it, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold my fingers right about there. And then I'm gonna go up here. Okay, what number does that line up with? Ah, looks to me like it lines up with the 8. So this is gonna be 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters. And then, since I already know it's 8 centimeters, I don't really need to hold my hand up again. If I go up on my inches, what is this closer to? This line right here. If I were going to draw a line and make the 8 all the way up here, is the 8 going to be closer to the 3 or is it closer to the 4 inches? Yeah, it's a lot closer to the 3, isn't it? So I can say that the length of the leaf in inches is about 3 inches long. Okay, so like this word right here, about, it means it's not exactly, it doesn't exactly line up with the 8, but it's a lot closer. I mean, not the 8, the 3. Okay. Remember, if I go too fast, you can always pause the video. You can always rewatch it if you don't understand or need a little bit of extra help. And you can always message me or email me if you need me to explain something again. So these next problems are going to be referring back to this picture. So I'm going to have to scroll up and down, but you might have to turn your page over to the front and then over to the back again so we can answer these questions. Number 6, does it take fewer? Okay, remember fewer is a synonym, means the same thing as less. Does it take fewer inches or fewer centimeters to measure the length of the paperclip? Does it take me less inches or less centimeters to measure that paperclip? Let's go back to measure the paperclip. Which one of these numbers that you wrote in these blanks is smaller? Remember we said the paperclip Paperclip is 2 inches and about 5 centimeters. So which one of those is smaller? It's going to take me fewer or less inches, right? Because I only have to have 2 inches, but I need 5 centimeters. So in this blank, you need to write the word inch, or, ooh, this is a fun fact, remember, we know how to shorten that word. If we don't want to write the whole thing, we can write I-N period. And that is the shortened version, so you don't have to write the whole word. Okay, instead of inches right here. Let's look at number 7. Does it take fewer inches or centimeters to measure the length of the leaf? Okay, so I'm looking for which one do I use less of to see how long it is. Let's look back. Remember, I said that I use 8 centimeters and about 3 inches. Which one is less? 8 or 3? I hope you said 3, otherwise we might have to go back and do some review, right guys? All right, so my answer again is going to be inches. I'm noticing a pattern. Inches here and inches again right here. I'll give you a second to write those. Now, number 8 is just going to be a thinking question. We're not actually going to measure it, but we're going to imagine that we are measuring the length of our math book. Okay, it says, will it take fewer inches or fewer centimeters? So if I had my math book, let's just pretend for a moment that my whiteboard right here it's about the size of my math book. So let's take a look. If I measure this whiteboard, which is my imaginary math book, it is about 29 centimeters. Approximately 29 centimeters. If I turn my ruler over, I line it up with that black line at the end there, remember? And then take a look. We haven't talked about these marks on the ruler, but some of you guys might already know a little tiny bit about fractions, and that a fraction is just a piece of something. It's not a whole entire thing. It's just a small part. So this is not a whole entire inch. It's just about half of it. So if this were my imaginary math book, oops, don't want to write the word centimeters. Silly, Miss Prindiville. It's about 11 1/2 inches. So if this were my math book, is it going to take me less centimeters or less inches to measure it? Which one of these is smaller? 11 and a little tiny bit more, or 29? Very good. 11 is a lot smaller than 29. Even though we've got a little bit of extra piece on my 11, it's less than half of 29. So right here in this blank, we are going to write inches. Why is that? Do you know? Why does it take me less inches than centimeters to measure the length of my imaginary math book? Well, I can see if I look at my ruler that an inch is quite a bit larger than a centimeter. It's about 2.5 centimeters in 1 inch. So it takes me less inches because inches are already bigger. So that's what we're going to write right here. I can't write on my screen, remember, but you can write in your book, inches are bigger. So inches on this line and inches are bigger on that line. Ooh, and inches are bigger. That sounds to me like a sentence. So don't forget your capital letter and your ending mark. Okay. If we scroll on down, these are the last two problems for today, and then you will be doing some iReady math time. Number 9 says, would it take fewer or less erasers or fewer buttons, there's our picture, to measure the length of your pencil? Oh, okay, so let's think. Here's my eraser. Remember, it's not one of those little cap erasers we stick on the end. It's this one right here. Would it take less of these to measure how long your pencil is? Or would it take less of these? Let's think about that. I said up here in the last question that it's going to take less inches because the inches are already bigger. I wonder, do you think that if something is bigger, it will take you less of that to measure something? I hope you said yes, because if you did, you are correct. The bigger something is, the less you need to measure something. So because the eraser is longer, it's going to take me less of them to measure how long my pencil is. I'm just going to guess it's probably about 2, maybe 2.5 of these versus probably 6 or 8 of these. That's just my guess. I have never done it exactly, but I'm just going to guess that's probably how long. So we're going to circle this eraser right here because it's longer already. So it's going to take me less. Last one for today. Would it take more hair clips, this right here, or more crayons? Ooh, they switched it on us. Pay close attention. They changed it from less to more. So which one would I use more of to measure how long your desk is? Would it take me more of these tiny little things to see how long my whole entire desk is? Or would it take me more crayons to see how long my desk is? Give you a second to think. Okay, it's going to take me a lot more of these hair clips to measure how long my desk is, because what's the difference between these two? This one is so much smaller. Oh my goodness, I might be able to fit like 5 or 6 of these on this crayon. It's so much shorter. So because of that, it's going to take me a lot more of them to line up to measure how long my desk is. Okay? So that is our lesson for today. Remember, if you need to pause the video, you can. If you need to rewind it, to rewatch it, you can always do that. What I want you to do now is make sure you have all of these answers filled in on this paper and then do 15 minutes on iReady Math. All right? I'll talk to you guys again later. Bye.